Are you ready, Mr. Steve Mack?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yo, this is KC Lights. I'm on tour at the moment, hence the hotel room video. But I'm going to be answering some questions for you guys, so let's get straight into it.
Big thank you to Chris and to all the guys at Sonic Academy for having me involved.
Hi, I'm Steve Mack, and I've got some questions to answer for Sonic Academy.
Well, my musical journey started from a really early age. I've always been interested in music, writing music, performing music. My first experience of house music was probably in 2008. Well, it was a long time ago. I went to Ibiza for the first time with my mates, and yeah, I was just blown away by the sound there and the community, and just everyone was just having the best time. So I haven't really looked back since, to be honest, and that was me.
So the thing that inspired me to start my musical journey was learning to play the bass at the age of 13. I can also play guitar as well, and I can play a little bit of keyboard as well. My mum and dad are very musical. My sister plays the saxophone, and yeah, it's definitely in my blood. There's no doubt about that.
When I was a teenager, I was like a big electro hip hop head, and I was a turntablist from quite an early age, and I was entering DMC competitions when I was 14 years old. It was the whole acid house movement in about 87, 88, where I sort of switched and got into that music. It just, it just overtook me, really. It was kind of started in electronic music anyway, with electro and hip hop, and then just moving to that. It was just a bit faster and had the 4/4 beat, and it just worked in nightclubs and stuff. So I got right into it, yeah. It was sort of like stuff like Cybertron, which was Warren Atkins. I was really into like the cold chilling stuff, which was Marley Miles productions, like Big Daddy Kane, Biz Markie, and stuff like that. Captain Rock, the electro stuff. Yeah, the list goes on and on.
People like the Thompson Twins and Tears for Fears and Killing Joke and Ultravox and all the 80s bands like Simple Minds. I also equally love the funk and soul kind of stuff. I grew up listening to James Brown, all that kind of stuff.
Growing up, I was really into anything and everything, to be honest. There wasn't any one particular sound or genre that I was more interested in than any other. I played saxophone. I do play saxophone, so I was really interested in jazz and classical music. I love rock music and indie music. Super big Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. I then, a little later into my teens, got really into electronic music and like Justice, Boys Noise, Daft Punk, acts like that.
Get the money shot moment. That's what I like to do first. I like to get the riff. If I can get the riff right and then make all the pads and everything work around that, and then get the bit where it can kick out, into the fire, if you like. If you can get that next minute after that sounding absolutely fat, then everything else will write itself. I just don't know whether the best method is to start with the kick drum and then create the hi-hat and then create the 16s and do all that kind of stuff and get the percussion right, because you can do all of that, but all of that is absolutely pointless without having the moment. And I've worked with quite a few big producers, and that's how they do it, and I reckon it's the winner.
I use an SP1200 quite a lot, which is a sampling drum machine, and I'll just mess around with bits of samples and start getting like a rhythm together with that, and then it's kind of weird with that machine. It just sort of gives you ideas, because you're doing bits of samples. It sort of starts throwing melodies at you. Yeah.
Starting a new track, there's never really a process that I follow or any sort of formula or anything like that. It's really different every time. Sometimes I'll have an idea already going into the studio, which usually that's the best ones, to be honest, when I've got something already up there and it's just about getting it out there, and yeah, trying to kind of flesh out some ideas that I've already got mulling around. Sometimes there's nothing really happening up there and it's just a case of experimenting and listening to lots of different music. Without any shadow of a doubt, my favourite part of the production process is the beginning, the inception of a musical idea, like I was talking about earlier. Kind of taking an idea from up up there that's in my head and fleshing it out into an actual piece of music. That's the reason, honestly, that I do this, because I love it so much. That just brings me so much joy.
My favourite part of the music making process is probably doing the arrangement, actually. I love tinkering with the arrangement and, you know, making things more concise and just getting it so that you've got full on power in the track.
You know, the most fun part is doing all the loops at the beginning and all the drums and messing around and doing effects and stuff. You're vibing, but then when you come to the end and you're doing the last little bits of levels, going, oh shit, is that loud enough? Is that too quiet? And you know, you start driving yourself mad a bit. But yeah, that's the worst part for me.
The last 15-20% of it, where it's literally just sitting down and fine-tuning everything and getting it sounding as good as it can be.
Not so keen on getting the kick and the bass to absolutely wallop on each other. Sometimes that can take a little bit longer and can be a little bit of a laborious process, but you don't have anything until you've got those two things, because they are the basis and the foundation of the track.
Oh, okay. Probably, can I ask that? A bit of advice. I don't really know, to be honest.
I would say just to relax a bit, take your time. You know, there's no rush. You don't really know what's ahead of you, and that doesn't ever change. So don't try to get too ahead of yourself. Don't stress yourself too much about what lies ahead or what's around the corner, because in this industry, you're never really going to know.
Use reference tracks. Make sure that you use a reference track, put it in as your track number one in your DAW, and just keep going backwards and forwards and keep referring to it. It is the absolutely perfect way to make sure that you're not trying to overproduce something and that you're just trying to get the similar characteristics as the track that you're referring to. It really, really works, and it's the advice that I always give to everybody.
Probably just, you know, keep your levels at a normal level. You know, don't push everything too hard and smash the life out of things. Maybe that.
To be honest, probably my main piece of advice that to others, and certainly one that I've kind of had to try and remind myself of, is really the reason that we're doing this, which is to have fun. If at any point you're on tour or you're in the studio in particular and you're not enjoying yourself, then something's not right, and it's worth reflecting and figuring out what that is.
The one that stands out the very, very most is Quake, The Day Will Come, which was a track that I did with Ian Bland from Dancing Divas and Dream Frequency. We'd already got the music together, and then we gave the lyrics to this woman called Marsha Ray. She went in the studio and she started to sing the lyrics, and she nailed it so much that I ended up laying on the floor just like going, oh my God! It was just a moment like no other moment in my entire life. I've never heard anything quite so angelic in my entire life. She totally owned it. I got a phone call, and this guy came on the line off a private number, and he said, Rob, it's Pete Tong. And I thought it was my friend Ian Bland, who I made the track with. I thought it was him having a joke with us, and I actually said, fuck off, Blandy, what are you on about? And he said, no, mate, it's Pete Tong. He said, I want to sign that record for FFRR. Yeah, the rest is history. Went into the top 40. It was an absolute game changer for me.
Off the top of my head, probably the Bless This Acid House album, which got released last year, was it 23? And I worked with a lot of the original like Chicago house artists like Marshall Jefferson, Robert Owens, Sleazy D, God rest his soul. You know, these people were a big inspiration to me. So to actually get to work with them was like quite mind-blowing. So I would say that project.
Honestly, for me, I think my favourite has to be a record that I released in 2020 or 21, can't even remember now, it was a few years ago, called Girl. It came out on Toolroom Records, and it came out really in the heart of lockdown. We were still not able to go out and party or see friends or go clubbing or DJ or any of those things. So everyone was really reluctant to release dance music, I think in particular. But I decided to put this record out, and it did really well for me. Without a doubt, I couldn't do it without the all of the Sound Toys plugins, the entire bundle. I use them, probably the majority of them, in most of my productions, particularly the Decapitator, which gets some really, really awesome distortion.
Shaper Box 3 is pretty decent. I really, really like that. Use that loads. Brings a little slice of magic. Just there's some great presets, some great filters in there, some great wideners. Love all that kind of stuff. Another one that I really, really like is Vengeance Avenger synth. Is a beast, and I love it.
Yeah, I suppose I'll go back to my EMU SP1200 drum machine. It's just something I've been using since '96. I got my first one, I think, and I still use that all the time. It's just got a brilliant sound, swing. It's got a really tight groove to it that I love. So that's my weapon of choice, I'd say.
Honestly, if you've got a really cool loop that you can listen to over and over again, you're onto a winner. In all of my favourite records that I've ever written, they've been born out of just a really core musical idea that I can just have on repeat constantly. And if you're not getting sick of it by doing that, then I think you're onto a winner.
I think every producer is guilty of this. They'll do a loop and go, right, okay, let's do another one. And you end up doing loads of them and actually not finishing them. And the best thing is actually just to sit there, sweat it out and go, right, okay, I'm not going to start another one. I'm just going to carry on with this one until it's finished arranged.
If you just keep cycling around, you really get lost in loop soup, so don't do it. I really don't recommend it. I always put a reference track in, just match up what's going on, and you will not go too far wrong. And before you know it, you'll get loads more tracks finished.
And then it's a case of probably sitting on it for a while. Don't listen to it for a while. Go listen to lots of other music, even leave it for a few days, a couple of weeks. Sometimes I'll leave things for months, literally, and then come back to it with a much fresher mind and a much fresher set of ears, and then take some notes. Listen to it, take some notes, and think about, okay, what's this missing and what's going to take us to the next level. And also a big one for me is don't be afraid to collaborate. If there's something you're just stuck on and it's kind of just not really, there's just something missing, you don't really know what it is, send it to one of your mates and get them to have a listen, or get them to work on it for you. That's a big one for me.
Little bit of music theory, which these days is easier than it's ever been before, because all of the DAWs, they all incorporate some kind of like scaling devices within them, and those things never existed a few years ago, and you need to use and embrace every single piece of modern technology that's out there. You really do.
Finishing the records and not just starting an idea and just moving on to the next. I mean, even you know, if you do find it a struggle, it's just listen to a lot of records that you like yourself, and listen to how they're arranged, and you know, get the ideas, maybe even copy the arrangement. It will help.
My advice, honestly, would be is to learn the music and to get your head around some real basic musical theory. I'm lucky that I grew up learning that, and I went to university and did music, and that's just always really kind of been a part of me. So I've never really had to worry about understanding music, but it's definitely helped me a lot, particularly when working with other people. If people send you ideas, you know, I find it kind of a lot easier to understand someone else's idea from another perspective, and to be able to dive in and get to work right away without having to worry too much about figuring out keys, tempos, even time signatures maybe, and rhythmic ideas and things. If you can understand the theory of music, particularly kind of melodically.
It was when I remixed the Todd Terry's record Jumping, when I was working with Rob, and we'd done the Rhythm Masters thing, which was, I think, 95 or 6. I think we done it in 95, it came out in 96. But it exploded, and it ended up about number 7 in the pop charts. And for an instrumental sort of house record, it's quite unheard of. So it was a big sort of life-changing moment for me personally.
for me, there was a couple of points records for me. Like I mentioned, Girl did really well for me. I followed that up with one called Cold Light that did really well at UK radio, and I think we were in playlist B on Radio 1 daytime rotation for 7 weeks or something, which is crazy.
Mixing, getting everything to sit right and sound right. It's a long journey. I mean, I'm a mix engineer now as well. I mix other people's records, and for this reason, I sort of took a long time out and studied the whole mix thing later on because I wanted my records to sound really good. But yeah, it's a tough one. That's the hardest learning part, I think.
Particularly to begin with is just having the patience, because it takes a long time to really get used to whatever DAW it is that you're using, and because really what you want to do is get to a point where you don't have to think too much about transforming an idea that's in your head into a piece of music through your computer or through whatever hardware you're using.
One of my favourite musicians from outside of the kind of like the circles that I move in is Ian Audi. Classical music, yeah, I love what he does. He's absolutely awesome.
Loads. I've never been one for like really pigeonholing myself into one genre. I'm constantly pursuing new collaborations, and that's a really big part of my kind of creative aspirations. Artists like Jungle, I would love to collaborate with. Georgia Smith. Yeah, and there's loads of rappers and rock acts. But yeah, to be honest, the sky's the limit. There's nothing, there's really not. I've actually had sessions with country musicians in Nashville, and there's really no genre that I wouldn't be interested in getting stuck into and working with.
I'd love to collaborate with quite a lot of people. That's a tough one. You know, I was always a big fan of like the Jamiroquai sound and like, you know, the band itself. And Derek McKenzie, the drummer, I ended up working with him, which is mad. We set his drum kit up in my studio, which, you know, it's not much space in here, but you know that was pretty amazing. And I've been lucky enough to work with some incredible people. So. I couldn't answer off the top of my head, to be honest, but there's so many people I'd love to work with. Quincy Jones, that'd be good.
It's really not. It's pretty much exactly the same. I really don't. As much as like I say, it's good to constantly keep learning and make sure you're on top of new processes and new ways of working and new plugins and new tools. But my process really hasn't changed as far as production's concerned.
It's changed a lot because we were using like Akai and Emu samplers and using an Atari to sequence it all. Obviously now we have computers and we've got audio. Everything's a lot easy. The difference that I found really difficult was the change in sound, because everything sounded quite thin in the computer at the time, but the converters weren't very good then, and you know, and obviously we didn't really know what we were doing. You know, 1 minute you're using a mixing desk, next you're using a computer, and it was a big difference in sound. But it took years to actually work out how to get it similar to how it was.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and that's one that I'm constantly trying to learn to be better at. Something really big that's helped me recently is accepting and understanding that after being on tour for a while and then getting home and into the studio, you know, your brain's not going to be what you want it to be. You're not going to be as active as or as on the ball as or as energetic or enthusiastic as you really feel like you want to be in the studio. As a result, I try and do I never used to be able to write music on the road, but I try and do as much of that as possible now. But it's just about trying to adapt as best you can and trying to figure out those moments that you do have the energy and capitalise on that, or you do have a bit of inspiration and really capitalise on that. And that could be, there was literally just last weekend I was sitting in a cafe and something just came to me. I had an idea, and so whipped out my laptop and sat and worked there for 2 hours.
Bottom line is that I always like to make time to make music, and I do a lot of that during the week. And if I'm out on tour and doing bits and pieces, I've always got my laptop with me and a decent pair of headphones. Sometimes if I'm out on the road and I'm in a hotel room for a day or so, I'll just do like one arrangement page and make 10 ideas on it, so I've got a minute of one idea, a minute of a next idea, a minute of a next idea, a minute of a next idea. Then I'll come home and I'll listen to all of those and then see whether I've got any gold in the pot.
Do you know what? It really, really depends. Some records you can just like bang them out in a couple of hours. If it's just like tracky, dubby stuff, then vocal records that can take a lot longer. It could be, it could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month. It depends. It also depends on the song. If the song isn't right and you have to go back and change some lyrics, or the recording of the vocal isn't quite right, that's when the time gets consuming.
It's only done when it's done. Simple as that. So I absolutely love it, and I don't mind that it takes a little bit of time. I don't think you can really put a full time limit on it, but also there are some times when you have to say, just let it go.
I mean, that varies from track to track. I can start and finish a track in literally a few hours, or I've had records, lots of them actually, that ultimately take years to finish because there's an idea there, or there's a song that I've written with someone that I know is really, really good, but there's just something that's not quite there with it yet, and it's just not as good as it can be.
I've always been a bit of a sucker for that as well. I've wasted a lot of stuff. I've made a lot of stuff that haven't been released. What I've done recently, I've been going through my archives. I've been finding records that I made 10, 15 years ago, and I've been finishing them off, which has been really, really good actually, because you kind of forget, do you know what, this record's all right, finish it. And I've literally just been doing that the last few months.
That's a really good question. You're probably not surprised to hear a very small percentage, but that's just the way of it. I think you've got to work on loads of ideas and loads of tracks before you get to the really good stuff. Some of it, I wouldn't use the phrase "go to waste" because I think it's really important. I don't think that's necessarily a waste. I think it's important to do that and go through that so that you can get to the good stuff, as I mentioned. But sometimes they do get used elsewhere. Yeah, I've got songs that I pitch out to other artists that just don't quite work for me, or just don't quite fit my sound or whatever. I also have lots of unreleased stuff that I just love to play out. I know that they'll never be released because, I don't know, they just don't fit into my release schedule, or there's just lots of other great music that's ahead of the queue as far as releasing music is concerned. But it's still super fun to play out unreleased stuff in my sets, and even more fun when people take videos of them and message me and ask when it's going to be released, because often the answer is never, and I think that's a really fun part of touring. I do love both of those actually. A favourite plugin, what is my favourite plugin? UE's Diva, I use constantly. Such an immensely rich and warm and analogy kind of sound. For
processing, all the plugin alliance stuff is unbelievable, love it to bits. And the stuff from Mastering the Mix, bass room and mix room, I use them all the time when it comes to actually mixing stuff down. Also the stuff by Sonable, the Sonable EQ, the Sonable reverb, so clever, the smart EQs, just love them, use them all the time.
I like using the Massenburg equalizer. I find that, like for an in-the-box equalizer, I find that really good. I use it a lot for cutting frequencies and stuff and getting rid of, cleaning stuff up. It's a really good plugin. I
mean, I work 99 0.9% in the box. So I have one of the full size complete control keyboards that I use constantly, and I actually don't have it right in front of my desk. I have it to the side so that when I'm playing it, I kind of feel like I'm playing an instrument, a real instrument, as opposed to just playing something on a computer. That's important for me too.
Ooh, probably I've got a GML 8900 compressor, which is there's nothing in the box that's come even close to it yet. I A and B stuff all the time, but it's a very extreme compressor, and you can do crazy stuff with it. It's quite complicated, but I've been using it for about 25 years, so I kind of know it inside out now.
I also play the saxophone still. That's an important one. I don't know if that's considered outboard gear.
I like to keep it quite simple. I've got 4 of these Yamaha HS8s, which I think you can probably see in the background there, and I've got one in each corner of the room actually, so that I can listen from different spots in the room, and I love them. They're great. They're a great set of speakers, and I don't have any problems with them whatsoever.
Monitors, I use ATC 25s with a PSI sub. Really good combination. They have great mid-range and top end. Yeah, that's my go-to.
I love Genelecs. I love. I have a room at home that I work mostly in. I still have KRKs in. The Rocket 6s, and I love those, and that's purely because they sound great, but I've been working with those for the best part of 10 years or more even. So my ears are so familiar with those that I'll never get rid of them. I'll always use those. But I love getting into a big studio with some big fancy monitors that sound great too. But those, I'll always stick with those.
I don't really use headphones in the studio. I've got a pair of Nighthawks which I use at home, and they sound absolutely amazing. It was actually Marshall Jefferson put me onto them because he owns about 100 pairs of headphones. He's a collector of them. And so what I do in the evenings, I will go home and listen to my mixes in there, and they sort of tell me if I've got too much reverb on something, and I'll pop back in the morning and sort of move the mix around.
I use the Slate VSX plugin. I love it. It's an absolutely brilliant bit of kit. Stephen Slate smashed it out of the park with that thing. And I use a pair of Sennheiser HD 300 Pro headphones using the VSX, and get some great results doing that. I'm very, very happy with all of that stuff.
I use the Bear Dynamic DT 1990 Pro, the open ear ones. They're amazing. I think as close as you can get to listening to a pair of monitors in a room, because working in headphones isn't ideal. It can be quite difficult, but I try and tour with those when I can.
I hope my opinions have helped to solve some of the mysteries for you. I wish you all the best, and get out there and smash one out of the park for me. Loads and loads of love.
Great stuff. Good to see you, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So yeah, hope you've enjoyed some of my answers to those great questions, and best of luck, guys.